I hope many more are playing fantasy sport on Fantasy Akhada as well. See, I put in a plug.
Absolutely. You're a good marketer, Harsha.
Three things about fantasy sport. First of all, luckily I was closely involved with the first ever fantasy sport announcement in India, which was Super Selector that we did on ESPN Star all those years ago that Joy Bhattacharya designed. And we all had to play, we all had to make our own teams. And we discovered how much fun it can be to make your own teams because even through a slightly dreary passage of Test cricket, for example, or that one was not for a specific series, that was for the entire season. So New Zealand is playing Pakistan, and you're starting to follow New Zealand versus Pakistan to see how your guys have done. So it increased the involvement. I discovered how much in love people are with it because, see, in those days, someone had designed it. Someone from overseas had designed it. They had no idea of Indian conditions. So they designed it for a certain number of people, completely unaware that in India, more people will join in. So I learned that people were getting up at 2 in the morning when the traffic was less to make their changes so that they could make their changes in time. That's when we realized we're on to something, with fantasy sport, we're on to something. And what it also told me was that you can understand the way a game is being played. You can wonder why a bowling change is happening. But the guys who play fantasy sport and who are in it, their understanding of form and how to play the game is at a different level. But more than anything else, it gives them a buzz that I am up against this supposed Pandit of the game. And I can do better. That is their way of competing. You see, only a certain number of people can play the game, but an innumerable number of people can be on a fantasy platform and actually show off their knowledge or show their acumen. And in a sense, they are playing cricket too. So suppose I'm playing with you. On another platform, Rabada might be bowling to Rohit. But I'm playing with you. And I'm playing my cricket match with you too. And so it democratizes everything and allows everyone to be in, which is great fun. Maybe people didn't catch on to an opportunity, or maybe it came on a little later. Maybe data connectivity improved. Maybe the spread of the internet would have also contributed to it, because the numbers that we were talking about for Super Selector were in modern context. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but in the modern context, they were not very large. But maybe the spread of the internet has had something to do with it as well. I'm not much of an investor. I've only made 2 investments so far. One on a fintech platform, and one is Fantasy Akhada. I had got a lot of requests over the last year, 2 years to be on a fantasy sports platform, but I tend to be very cautious, very defensive in associating with people. There's a credibility that's built up over the years. I hope there is, but that can vanish very quickly. And so I tend to be very wary of getting into areas that I'm not sure about. So when this Fantasy Akhada thing came up, I called up a common friend and said, tell me a little more. Tell me a little more. And he said, you can trust them, eyes closed. And that was the reason I went in. And I've been very clear at the start that I'm not in this for the profit. I'm not in this for the valuation. If it comes along, great. But let's have fun. But let's run it ethically, so that people can come in and have fun, and everyone can go to bed at night feeling good. So that was very important to me. So let's see. It's going well. It's growing every single day, which is good to see. There's no reason not to take names, because I mean, Dream 11 is a pioneer in this genre. I know the young man who runs it very well. And in fact, when we started Fantasy Akhada, he sent me a message. Harsh sent me a message saying welcome, and part of the community again. Because many years ago, I'd done something with Dream 11 as well. So I know Harsh as a young man. I admire how young India is taking its fortune in its own hands and trying to do something big. So he sent me a message. I like a world like that where you can compete and be friends. At the moment, it's not competition. Maybe someday it will be. But I like a situation where people can compete and be friends. That's what sport, to me, that's what sport is about, That on the field, you try your best to compete. and then you shake hands, you have a meal. It's not life and death. To me, life has always been a little too simplistic from that point of view. So I mean, there's no harm in talking about Dream 11 or anyone else, but I do wish Fantasy Akhada grows well, because these are young people who are trying very hard to do something in life and doing it a certain way. So if it works and I can be part of a very tiny part of making it work, so be it. It will be very big, simply because people have now got what we in Hyderabad used to call in our childhood upar ki hawa. You know, when you're flying a kite, you struggle to get the kite up to a certain height. And when the kite reaches a certain, I used to fly kites a lot in Hyderabad. When the kite reaches a certain level, then you say, ab upar ki hawa lag gayi. And so the kite almost flies itself after a while. So you'd want a lot of platforms, and I'd certainly want Fantasy Akhada to reach a place where upar ki hawa lag gayi. And I think with the amount of cricket there is, there's a tournament going on now. There's England, India. There's India, Australia. There's another IPL. Right? These are 4 tournaments that everybody is involved in. Soon after that, hopefully, there will be a T20 World Cup again, and we'll be over this pandemic. But we've been saying we'll be over this pandemic for such a long time. So there is a lot of interest. What T20 cricket also does is, because it doesn't have the same nuances of Test match cricket. In Test match cricket, you're thinking, should I have Ashwin in my team or no? But first things, he never bowled much. So should I have Ashwin in my team or no? But he might win me a game in the 4th innings. So these nuances start to come in Test match cricket. In T20, you make a choice and you see the result of that choice very quickly. So T20 is tailor-made actually for fantasy. I'll tell you what, the genuine fantasy league lovers will want to play across a season. But the thrill of playing across one game is fantastic. So I see it growing. I see it growing enormously, especially with such a lot of cricket happening, and with the opportunity for everybody to join in.
Sounds fantastic.
You can beat me. You can beat me, so that's okay. If you get excited on the morning, then you're going to a game not as calm and relaxed as you should. It's like a player. I mean, a player's got to be excited too, but deep inside, he's got to tell himself, if I get overexcited, it's going to affect my game. I'm going to keep thinking of the result. I'm going to think, I better do well today. I better do well today. And if I don't, then what happens? Everybody's watching. So you've started to put the result ahead of the performance. So it's actually happened to me when I've gone really excited to a game and things have gone wrong.
Oh, all right.
So, the big things that happen in your life, the big moments that happen, whether you're a player or a broadcaster or a scientist or someone who runs a marketing promotion agency, the big things happen without you realizing it. They happen afterwards. You realize it later, you know what, that thing that happened yesterday was big. So I've been excited about being at a World Cup final. I've been excited at being at IPL finals, at T20 World Cup finals. Very excited about Indian Test match wins overseas. But you realize that they were big only after it happens, which is as it should be. So I remember the World Cup final 2011 getting really excited. I was in a studio in Delhi. I said, this is the one day India playing home World Cup final. Everybody will be watching the pre-show, because the pre-shows are quite long. So everybody will be watching the pre-show. And then I remember on my way to the studio, I said, no, just another game. Don't get excited by the fact that this is a World Cup final that everybody is watching, because then you'll be too keyed up. You'll be trying too hard to impress, and then you're not yourself. Just be yourself and take the result.
Even the song that played at the World Cup final, right? Vande Mataram, while that was happening, everyone had goosebumps. But it was only after that, when you look back at the highlights, you realize what a moment this was.
Yeah, it was. I mean, that 2011 World Cup final, or the question that I'm asked most often, which is the Sachin retirement passage. At that time, I wasn't even supposed to be on air at that time, so you can't plan for it. I wasn't even supposed to be on air at that time. There was a young producer who said, I think you know him better than some of the other people. You'll understand what it is. So he asked me if I would join in. So he changed the rosters around a little bit. I didn't know at the time I'm going to be on. And so you tend to react to situations. So I didn't know at that time that Sachin would say what he did, that it would become such an emotional moment, and that I would have a small walk-on part in there. I know what's coming here.
And the match was last night. Bangalore versus Kings 11. Alright, so I have the numbers here with me. Very quickly. Now, both of us.
Then AB de Villiers down at 6.
Yeah, well, that was unexpected though, right?
That's the thing about fantasy sport, right? You tell yourself, okay, AB will bat 10, 12 overs, and if he bats 10, 12 overs,
Gets
he's
to
going to
bat
score
4.
enough runs, and then they send him at 6 and he gets 5 balls. I had AB, right? I picked AB.
Yes, you had. Okay, well, so both of us had AB, and here's what went down, right? Both of us selected 5 players, and AB and Mohammad Shami were the common picks. So their points are nullified, and both of them together scored 59 points. So it's down to the next 3. For the spinner, you had Chahal, and M.O.M had Ravi Bishnoi. 23 points for you, 2 points for us.
Sorry, how many did you get? I missed that. 23 points for me and
2 points.
2 points.
Okay, so I'm getting excited.
So that takes your total to 82, and the M.O.M total to 61.
Yeah, so look at the differentials. It's plus 21 now. Okay.
Next come the openers. You had Mayank, and we had Finch. Mayank, 59 points. Finch, 28 points. So once again,
48 points ahead.
so that takes you to 52. The differential is 52 points.
Okay.
Alright, so now for the captain. You had Virat Kohli. We had KL Rahul. Kohli scored 48 runs, but KL scored 61 runs. And KL also took 2 catches. Virat got 55 points, but KL got 106 points. Taking the total, 196 for you and 195 for Madhav Marketing. You won by 1 point, Harsha.
See what it's done to me. It was close. It was close. But you know, I was actually thinking about it yesterday. I mean, that's not the reason why I came out strongly against AB batting at 6. I didn't let that come into play, but I was thinking AB at 6. But as you said, see, that's the other nuance about fantasy sport. You might think, oh, my player didn't do well. But if everybody had your player, that gets cancelled out, right? It's such an interesting aspect here. Yeah.
And it's not just your scores, the catches count. There's so many other elements which come in. But alas, to the winner, a big round of applause.
Thank you. By 1 point, but what the same? It's the same as winning by 100. You win by 1 point. You win a World Cup final by 2 runs, or you win it by 10 wickets. How does it matter?
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a great joy in being young and hoping to control your destiny, which we can't do, but hoping to. You know that well too. I mean, you've done a pretty good job of it. So that is why I'm hoping that energy, that excitement. I've always believed that the extent of entrepreneurship in a country is an indicator of the confidence of a country. And the more young people who want to become entrepreneurs, some will fail, some will do well. That is the way of the world. But the more that want to become entrepreneurs is a sign of confidence in society. And so I get very happy when young people are ambitious and ethical, both. The second as important as the first. When young people are ambitious and ethical and want to do something big, that's great. I mean, our generation is I mean, India is not about us. India is about you people. It's not about us anymore. So if you do well, it's great for India.
On that wonderful note, that actually inspires me as well. That kind of actually inspires me. But here's
I hope it goes well with you as well. I hope it goes really well for Fantasy Akhada. I hope it goes well for you too.